Today we're going to review how do we find the slope and rate of change. The goal for this lesson is that you can find the slope from a graph, find the slope between 2 points, find identical slopes among triangles, and be able to find the slope from a table. So let's go ahead and get started. The first skill we're going to review is how do we find the slope from a graph. Remember, slope is rise over run. So what you want to do is you want to pick any 2 points that are on your line and calculate how far you're going up or down and then how far you're going to the right and make that fraction, rise over run. So if you look at this example, problem number 2 here, if we pick 2 points, maybe the point here, and we go to calculate the rise over run, we're going up 1 and over 1, 2, 3, 4. So my slope, therefore, my rise over run is 1 over 4. The second example, again, I want to pick 2 points. And you might want to notice also that from left to right, it's going downhill. So your slope is going to be negative. We're going down 1, so that's negative 1, to the right 2. And so my slope, therefore, is negative 1 over 2. If I look at this last example, problem number 4, there's a little bit of a trick to it. If we look at this y-axis here, they are not counting by 1s anymore. They're counting by 3s. So every time you go up or down the y-axis, you're counting by 3s. They're counting by 1s along the x-axis. So that's something to keep in mind as you're calculating your rise over run. So we get started the same way. We pick 2 points, any 2 points where you see your line is crossing the grid lines. And we're going to calculate the rise over run. So I'm going up 3, 6, 9, and then to the right 2. So my slope, therefore, is 9 over 2. So that's how you find the slope when you're looking at a graph. Now let's review how do we find the slope from 2 ordered pairs. So off to the left of my screen here is my formula for finding slope from 2 ordered pairs. Every ordered pair has an x first and a y second. So we're going to have 2 of these. The formula says you take the second y minus the first y over the second x minus the first x. So let me work an example. So the first thing I'd like you to do when you're given the 2 ordered pairs is I'd like for you to label them. So this is my first x, this is my first y, this is my second x, this is my second y. Remember, x comes first, y comes second. So if I use my formula here, I'm going to take the second y minus the first y, so I have 7 minus 4, over the second x minus the first x, 1 minus 2. That gives me 3 over negative 1, and I want to simplify that, and that becomes negative 3. Let's do the same thing with problem number 3. First thing we're going to do is we're going to label our ordered pairs. So this is my first x, first y, second x, second y. Now I apply my formula. The second y minus the first y, negative 2 minus 0, over the second x minus the first x, 3 minus a negative 1. You have to be careful because if the second number is negative, there's 2 negative signs in because there's always 1 in your formula, here and here. This gives me negative 2 over 3 minus negative 1 becomes 3 plus 1, which is 4. And if I simplify that, that's negative 1/2. The last example, again, we're going to label them. First x, first y, second x, second y. And we're going to apply our formula. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we have 5 minus 3 over 5 minus 1, and that gives me 2 over 4, which is positive 1/2. So that is how you find the slope between 2 ordered pairs. The next slope topic I'd like to review with you is how do we determine if 2 triangles would lie on the same line? So if you think about what we just did, we just looked at making triangles to calculate the slope. For instance, if I look at this line over here on the left-hand side of my screen, and I pick 2 points, and I want to find the slope between them, I'm basically making this triangle right here. This is called the slope triangle. This is going down 2 over 3. So again, be careful. Look at that y-axis, how the intervals are counted. Now, let's say somebody else, though, they made a different triangle. Maybe they chose this point here and this point way down here. So they were going down 4 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Either way, when you calculate the slope of the orange triangle or the blue triangle, it should be the same. Again, this one is going down 4 over 6, so that's negative 4 over 6. If I simplify, that's negative 2/3. This one here, I was going down 2 over 3, negative 2/3. Those are both the same. The two triangles aren't the same. They have the same slopes to them, but they are called similar triangles. So what we want to do when we want to figure out if two triangles are going to lie on the same line, we want to make sure that they have the same slope. So we're going to look at their rise over run. So for each of these triangles here, let's calculate their slope ratios. So triangle A, my rise is 30 and my run is 55. I'm going to have to simplify that. Triangle B, my rise is 28 and my run is 45. And triangle C, I'm going to have 28 over 39. Remember, the triangles that have the same slope will lie on the same line. So let's simplify these and see which ones have the same slope. Okay, so the slope we saw over here was 2/3. So which of these gave me 2/3? 30 over 55 becomes 6 over 11, so that's not it. 28 over 45 can't be simplified. And 26 over 39 is 2/3. So triangle C has the same slope as the line over here. So remember that idea of making similar triangles to find the slope. So when you're looking at just a triangle, calculate the rise over run to figure out its slope. Finally, the last thing we'd like to review is how do we find the slope when we're looking at a table. So remember, a table just gives you a whole bunch of ordered pairs. They're just written in a table form. So we can do the same process that we practiced earlier. First thing we can do is just choose any two ordered pairs from the table, and then we can apply our slope formula of the second y minus the first y, over the second x minus the first x, and that will help us to find our slope. So let's get started. Looking at table A, notice that the table is running horizontally. The x's are across the top, the y's are across the bottom. So what you want to do is you want to pick any two ordered pairs from the table. I like to avoid decimals and negatives. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on this ordered pair here and this ordered pair here. So the first ordered pair, remember, x comes first, y comes second, so that's the ordered pair 0, 5. My second ordered pair would be 2, 6. Now I apply this formula right here. So I do y minus y over x minus x. So that is going to give us 6 minus 5 over 2 minus 0. So that's 1 over 2, or 1/2. If we look at the next table, this one's a little bit different because it's written vertically. Again, x are in the first column, y's are in the second. This one, I don't really see any great options to choose that are different than others. So I'm just going to use my first 2 points. I have 2, 1, and I have the point 4, negative 1. I highly recommend rewriting these off to the side. Now we're going to apply our slope formula. Remember, x's come first, y comes second. So we're going to have y minus y. I'm going to go from the bottom to the top. I have to be consistent. If I do bottom to the top when I subtract my y's, I have to do bottom to the top when I subtract my x's. So I'm going to go negative 1 minus 1 over 4 minus 2. Again, I went bottom minus top, bottom minus top. We have to keep it consistent. Negative 1 minus 1 is negative 2 over 4 minus 2, which is 2, and that simplifies to negative 1. If it would help, you could have taken these same 2 points and just kind of written them side by side like we did with the first example. And then you can draw your arrows and your subtraction to help you be consistent. So that is how you find the slope when you're looking at a table. Just be careful of the direction and know that your ordered pairs have x first and y second. So that's a review. Oops, sorry about that. So that is a review of how we find slope in graphs between 2 points, among triangles, and tables. I hope that helped you in reviewing slope.